So, Hare Krishna. So, welcome once again to this Srimad Bhagavatam session. So, we will first offer our Guru Pranam mantra and our Mangala Charan and dedicate this presentation for the pleasure of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpathe Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pango Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyadrindaranykalpadrumadaha Srimat Ratnagara Simhasanaosto Sriman Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prashtadi Vihi Sevyamano Smarami Sriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivatastatastitaha Karshan Venu Swanair Gopir Gopinata Shriyastunah Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Vinashana Visimhati Namine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayatim Girim Yatkripa Tamaham Vande Sri Guru Vinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishwaram Om Tatsat Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udire. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Nara Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadev, the author. Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Nigama kalpatarur galitam phalam sukamukadam ritadravya samyutam vibhata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhurmaho rasikabu vibhavakaha. Let Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabaya Nama Pankajamahalini Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajamru. Hare Krishna, everyone. So welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam session. So this is chapter 7, Canto 1, the son of Drona punished. And we are now doing part 3. So we have already done 2 parts before this. So a quick recap to help us put us in the compass of what we are doing. So we heard how the conclusion of the history of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam was the sages of Naimisaranya forest. They wanted to know the background of Srimad Bhagavatam. Who spoke Srimad Bhagavatam? Why was it spoken? How did such a situation come? And all these questions. And what's the inspiration behind Srimad Bhagavatam? So therefore, we heard about all the stories. We heard about Vyasadeva, how he got inspired and all that. So, but this particular chapter, we heard after Vyasadeva received instruction from Narada Muni, and Narada Muni already disappeared. So then Vyasadeva went to Samya Prayas. Samya Prayasa is a village near the river Saraswati, near Badrinath, in Badrinath. This is near the Himalayas. So we're still there. And over there he sat and he meditated. We heard how he meditated. Just a moment. I think I need to mute. Okay. So after meditating, immediately, the moment he meditated, he was able to envision the Supreme Lord within his heart. So he didn't have to try, because by the grace of the Lord, he was already having a very advanced level of bhakti. So just by immediately sitting down and meditating, the Lord immediately appeared in his heart. He already achieved that perfection of achieving the mercy of the Lord. So in his vision, Vyasadeva saw 3 things. First, he saw Purusham Purnam. He saw the Supreme Lord, Purushottamam, in his Purnam form, with all his glory. So the Supreme Lord, he saw him. And the second thing he saw was, surrounded by the Supreme Lord is his energies. He saw Mayam. And not only he saw Mayam, there's 2 energies, spiritual Maya, and the Antaranga Shakti and the Bahiranga Shakti, right? Mahamaya and Yoga Maya. We already discussed this previously. And it's not just he saw Maya fully under the control of the Lord. So the word Apasrayam was used, Mayam Apasrayam. So how the energies of the Lord are completely dependent on the Supreme Lord. They are not independent. They are completely dependent on the Supreme Lord. So the Supreme Controller is the Purusha Uttama. And he also saw how the jivas, the part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, how the jivas in this material world are covered by Maya. So jiva, what's the word? Mohana. Yeah, I forgot the word. But anyway, the jivas are covered by Maya within this material world. How they have taken themselves to be this gross body. They have forgotten that they are spirit souls. They have forgotten that they have nothing to do with this material world or this temporary bodily identity, because they have been completely enamored by Maya. Sammoha, yes, that's the word. Jiva Sammoha. So how the third thing he saw was the Jiva Sammoha. And then he also saw the solution, how the Jiva Sammoha, these Jivas who are empowered by this illusion of Maya, because they are forgetful of the Lord, and because they do not understand the actual position of themselves, they try to lord over this material nature, and in so doing, they incur reactions, and by incurring reactions or karma, they go through various difficulties in life. So the solution to overcome all this, the solution of coming out of this materialistic viewpoint, Vyasadeva, he also envisioned the solution for these jivas who are trapped in this Maya. And the solution is Srimad Bhagavatam, the recitation and the hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and therefore the solution is Bhakti Yogam Aduksaje, devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, Aduksaje, the one who is beyond matter, the one who is beyond material nature. So that is the solution, to take up the path of devotional service. And how best to take up this path of devotional service? So it's very difficult to do devotional service unless one hears about the Supreme Lord, because devotional service begins with Shravanam, hearing. So because of this, Vyasadeva envisioned the solution, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam was envisioned by Vyasadeva for the purpose of satisfying the devotional service, giving the path of devotional service. So simply by oral reception, Sruya Manayam means simply by oral reception. You don't have to do anything else. Simply by listening, by attentively hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is executed. So, and by simply hearing, what happens is Soka, Moha, and Bhaya all becomes extinguished, Upaha. So Soka is misery, lamentation, Moha is illusion, and Bhaya is fear. All of these things are extinguished. So this is the power of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And we also heard in the beginning the invocation mantras, right? Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam Sukamukha Dravya Amya. So we heard how loving devotional service is blossoming in the heart. So not only Soka, Moha, and Bhaya is destroyed. After destroying these weeds in the heart, the wonderful, beautiful flower of loving devotional service unto the Lord is planted within the heart, simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And it is also attractive to even those who are liberated. So therefore, Vyasadeva teaches the Srimad Bhagavatam to Sukadeva Goswami. So we heard all this previously. So we are recapping. After that, he concludes the history of the Srimad Bhagavatam, answers the question to the sages, and then he goes on to answer another part of the question. So because the sages also wanted to know who is the person who heard the Srimad Bhagavatam originally. So Parikshit Maharaj, right? So who is the person who heard this? Tell us about him. So therefore, in order to tell about Parikshit Maharaj, he begins a next thread of conversation. And at the same time, the sages also wanted to know more about the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They wanted to know his leelas. Tell us more about his pastimes. So therefore, together, at the same time telling the pastime of the Lord, at the same time also telling about the introduction of how Parikshit Maharaj came to the situation of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, this particular narration begins here. And it goes on until almost the end of this canto. So the story begins by setting the scene. The scene is right after Mahabharata war. So the 18 days of war took place. And after that, the Pandavas, after Duryodhana was defeated in battle by Bhima and his thighs were broken and he lay down dying, they all went back. The Pandavas went back together with their army, the remainder of their army. They went back to their camp and spent the night. Then Ashwatthama, together with Kripacharya, and one more person, I forgot the other person's name. But Kripacharya and Ashwatthama, they went to the Pandavas camp, and Ashwatthama was was completely overwhelmed with anger, and he wanted to avenge the death of his father, Dronacharya. So therefore, and he was completely, because of his anger, he completely became illusioned. He lost his good sense. And he entered secretly into the camp of the Pandavas in the middle of the night. And while the guards and the warriors were sleeping, he killed them, killed most of the army. In fact, all the army of the Pandavas, the remainder of the armies of the Pandavas, he killed all of them while they were sleeping. Not satisfied, he went also into the tent of the Pandavas, thinking to kill the Pandavas in their sleep also. But by a quirk of fate, he came across 5 sleeping figures. And these sleeping figures were actually the sons of the Pandavas, the Upa Pandavas, right? Draupadi's 5 children by the Pandavas. But he didn't realize, and he thought they were the Pandavas. So while they were sleeping, he quietly just chopped off their heads. This was all done in the dark. So, and so actually in reality, he became Balahatya. Balahatya means one who kills children. Hatya means killer, Bala means children. So Ashwatthama, he is also known as Drauni, the son of Dronacharya. He became Balahatya because he killed them. And then he took their heads and then he left and he went to find his master Duryodhana, who was lying dying. He thought he could make Duryodhana happy by giving these heads of these 5 Pandavas. See, we won at the end. He thought he could say like that. But later when he revealed the heads from the sack, they realized that these were not the Pandavas' heads, but the children of the Pandavas. And Duryodhana was disgusted. Say, what is this? You have destroyed I already lost the war. Now you have destroyed what's left of my honor. So what a despicable act you did. Not befitting a Kshatriya. What to speak of a Brahmana? You're supposed to be Brahmana. Kshatriyas also don't do this kind of acts. Creeping into the night secretly, like a common assassin or a thief, killing people in their sleep, defenseless, and killing children. So this kind of acts, you have condemned the entire side of this army. So in this way, lamenting miserably, Duryodhana died. So anyway, back to the Pandavas camp. We heard how Sutta Goswami was narrating. Draupadi, after she realized what has happened, she was overwhelmed with emotion. And then Arjuna was trying to pacify her. And what did Arjuna say? Right? He said, I will pursue this son of a Brahmana, and I will cut off his head, and I will make you stand on the head of this Ashwatthama. And by standing on his head, you can bathe. And in this way, you can become freed. Your grief can be avenged. So we already discussed this previously. So together, he armed himself with fearsome weapons, and he was, of course, accompanied by none other than his dear friend Achyuta. So this is the first mention of Sri Krishna. The first mention of Sri Krishna pastime, the Leela, and he was called as Achyuta. Infallible, undefeatable, invincible, one who never fails. That's the meaning of Achyuta. So, and Achyuta was driving the chariot and bringing Arjuna. So Arjuna's name at that time was Kapidwaja, one who carries the flag of Hanuman. So together they pursued, they went after Ashwatthama. Ashwatthama ran in fear. And when he saw them approaching with anger, he knew he could not defeat them. And out of complete fear, he decided to do, he did so many bad things. See, the problem with doing bad things is they become worse and worse. When you do one bad thing, the second bad thing becomes easier to do. And the third bad thing becomes easy, where nothing to it. Just like a murderer. When a person does the first murder is very hard to do. But after the first murder is done, he begins to think, hey, that wasn't too hard. I think the second murder also I can do to get away, to get what I want. So then murder becomes common for them. So this is how a serial killer is in the making. So in the same way, Dronacharya's son Ashwatthama was a Brahmana, but he fought against Krishna and against Dharma in the side of the Kauravas. And already he did something wrong. And after that, he did a lot of terrible things after that. He went, sneaked up at night. Kshatriyas are supposed to utter a challenge before they fight. They are not supposed to be cowardly. But he sneaked up like a coward in the middle of the night. He killed all the children and he killed people sleeping, defenseless. So such terrible things which he did, and therefore he completely lost his morality. So when he saw that his life was in danger, when immoral people, they see their life in danger, what do? Especially if they have the power, what will they do? They will try to destroy everything together with them. This is what they do. They will do desperate acts. They will resort to desperate acts which are against religion, against dharma, against the welfare of everything in this living world. Simply for their own fear, just to satisfy it, they are willing to destroy everything. They don't mind, they don't care. So therefore, he released the Brahmastra. Actually, he released something called the Brahma Sirsha. The Brahma Sirsha is a type of Brahmastra. There are different variations of Brahmastra. And amongst them, the most powerful of that is the Brahma Sirsha. And this Brahma Sirsha, it can destroy everything. They destroy the entire creation even. So, but a person who shoots this Brahma Sirsha, there is a mantra to shoot it, release it, and there is also a mantra to control it, and there is a mantra to retract it also. But Ashwatthama only knew how to release. He did not yet master the mantra to control. He did not yet master the mantra to take it back. So because of this, he released the Brahma out of desperation and fear and complete disregard for the welfare of the entire world. He released the Brahmastra. And this Brahmastra in the form of Brahma Sirsha, it was coming screaming, and the effulgence and the teja was burning everything along its way. And the effulgence could be seen lighting up the entire cosmos. The entire galaxy was effulgent with the burning, scorching heat. And we heard how, after that, what happened? Arjuna, he never saw such a Brahmastra because usually he fought responsible people. So there were other people who could also shoot Brahmastra, but they were all responsible. They would never release Brahmastra to destroy the entire universe. They simply want to destroy their enemy only. So they will control the Brahmastra in such a way that it will only affect and harm the target only. It does not do collateral damage. That means it doesn't destroy things around the target. It only destroys the target. It's very specific. So Arjuna never saw such a situation. So when he saw the entire world starting to burn, he thought that dissolution of the universe is starting to happen. Immediately, now saintly people, what they do when they see this kind of, we saw how a demonic person acts when his life is threatened, right? And we also saw how a saintly personality behaves when his life is threatened. So we saw the difference, how Arjuna, the moment he saw his life threatened, he resorted to prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Immediately, he offered prayers to the Supreme Lord. We heard Arjuna's prayers, how Arjuna, very beautiful prayers. He glorified the Supreme Lord as the ultimate shelter. And in this way, he took ultimate shelter of the Supreme Lord. He surrendered to the Supreme Lord. So it's natural for the devotees to quickly take shelter of the Lord. It's not difficult for them. And after that, he glorified the Supreme Lord as transcendental. Everything about him is transcendental. His form, his name, his pastimes, everything is beyond matter. And in this way, finally, he asked Krishna, after these glorifications, what is happening? What is the danger that's coming? And then he also prayed for protection. we recited that prayer, right? Krishna, Krishna, Mahabahu. Oh, Krishna, Krishna, mighty armed. Krishna, Krishna, Mahabahu, Bhaktanam Abhayankara. You are the one who removes the fear of your devotees. Bhaktanam Abhayankara. So, oh, mighty armed one, the remover of the fear of your devotees. So, in this way, he prayed, right? So, we heard that also. And we saw how Krishna, and we heard Arjuna's glorification of Krishna as the supreme shelter, and how he's so merciful. Although he is transcendental and has nothing to do with this material world, but yet he gives his mercy to these people in this material world. So Karunika, we heard about his quality of mercy, extreme mercy. So then we stopped at the point where Arjuna completed his prayers, and now Lord Krishna utters his first words. So Krishna is now uttering his first words in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, he is responding to the prayer of Arjuna. Arjuna is asking, what is happening? What is the danger that is approaching me? So Krishna is responding. He says, know from me that this is the act of Drona Putrasya, the son of Drona. Know from me that this is the act of Drona Putrasya. He has thrown the hymns of nuclear energy. Prabhupada translates it like this. So just to help us to understand, because we cannot understand the power of this Brahmastra. We can only understand based on our experience. And though we have not experienced nuclear bomb, but we have heard descriptions of it much, enough in our life so that we can envision nuclear. So therefore, Prabhupada describes it that way. So he has thrown the hymns of nuclear energy, Brahmastra, and he does not know how to retract the glare. So therefore, it is destroying everything across his path. So Krishna is telling, he has why did he do this? He has helplessly done this, being afraid of imminent death. So this is, as I mentioned before, how demonic people or people devoid of culture, they will act in this way. They don't care what happens to anything else, so long as they achieve what they want. So Krishna is telling this to Arjuna, and then he continues, Oh Arjuna, only another Brahmastra can counter this weapon. So this is very, this is interesting weapon discussion. So in the previous, we only know about weapons, gross weapons, what we call gross weapons, like we shoot a missile or we throw a bomb or these kind of things. So these are very gross. But previous age, there were gross weapons as well as subtle weapons. Subtle means very fine. Some of these you cannot see. It can kill even without causing other damages. So it's invoked by mantra. You don't have to put it on a warship and launch it with gunpowder. No, simply by mantra, we can invoke the power of the weapon inside any object, even a blade of grass. So we just have to take a blade of grass, recite the mantra, and that blade of grass can even have the power of a Brahmastra to destroy the world. So that such was the. Now this subtle science, this is called subtle science. It's not spiritual. It is subtle matter. Material in matter, when we talk about matter, there is gross matter and there is subtle matter, right? Just like earth, water, fire, air, these are all gross. Earth is the grossest, and then water, and then less gross is fire, and less gross is air. Can't see air, isn't it? So and fire doesn't have weight. And even less gross, more subtle than all of this is ether, akash. But all of this is still matter. It is not spirit. So therefore, these weapons are very, very powerful. They are very subtle. So this science was there during those ages. So then Krishna continues, Oh Arjuna, only another Brahmastra can counteract this weapon. So if somebody shoots a Brahmastra, the way to counter that Brahmastra is to shoot your own Brahmastra, and together they neutralize each other without affecting anything else. Since you are expert in the military science, subdue this Astra Teja Unnadam. Subdue this. Astra means weapon, Teja means this terrible glare, the glare and the burning fire which accompanies this weapon. Subdue this burning glare of this weapon. Unnadam. Unnadam means very powerful. So Brahmastra is the most powerful weapon in the material world. So, and this Brahmastra is the variant that Dronacharya's son Ashwatthama released, is the most powerful of that variant. It's called the Brahma Sirsha. So it's described that it is able to, it appears with a glare which destroys everything. So how do you subdue this? You subdue this other weapon with the power of your own weapon. And then he continues, Sutta Uvacha. So now Sutta Goswami, remember Sutta Goswami is recounting this conversation, right? He's telling the sages. So Sutta Uvacha, he's telling, hearing this from Bhagavata Falguna, hearing this from Bhagavata, Bhagavata means referring to Krishna. Hearing this from Bhagavan, Falguna, Falguna is another name for Arjuna. Arjuna is known as Falguna because he is born under the nakshatra of Falguni. So he is known as Falguna. So Arjuna, after hearing this, immediately he touched water for purification, Achaman. He purified himself by touching water. And after parikramya Brahman, after circumambulating the Brahman, or the source of the Brahman, or the Parabrahman, who is that? How can Arjuna circumambulate the Brahman? Because the Parabrahman, which is the source of the Brahman, is standing right in front of Arjuna in the form of Krishna, the original personality of Godhead. So he simply had to go around him. So therefore, very nicely is described how Arjuna circumambulated the entire Brahman simply by going around Krishna. And what did he do? He cast his Brahmastra to counteract the other one. So he readied his Gandiva bow and he placed the Brahmastra weapon on his bow and he released it with the mantra, invoking it. And in this way, the two Brahmastras collided. So when the tejas, when the effulgence or the radiation of the two Brahmastras combined, a great circle of fire like the disk of the sun covered all outer space and the whole firmament of planets. The entire galaxy, all the planetary systems, the glare of these two weapons colliding was so bright, it's like covered the entire galaxy, all of the planetary systems, just like the terrible fiery disk of the sun. And all the population of the three Lokan. So, we have the 14 planetary systems. Within one universe, Brahma created the 14 planetary systems. Satya Loka, Jana Loka, Mahaloka, Tapaloka, and then Bhuloka, and then 7 above, and then Bhuloka, and 7 below. Patala, Sutala, Vitala, Talatala, Rasatala. So all these planetary systems. So the upper planetary systems are called Swar, and the middle planetary system is called Bhu, and the subterranean or Bilva Swarga or underground subterranean lower planetary systems are called Bhur. So Bhu, Bhur, and Swarga. So Bhuloka is the top, and below is the subterranean, and then there is Bhuvar Loka, and then there is Swarga Loka. So therefore, it's 3. Therefore, usually instead of calling the 14 planetary systems, they are grouped together in 3s. So 7 together becomes 1, 7 below becomes 1, and 1 in the middle. So therefore, 3 Loka. So the population of the three loka, that means the population of the entire 14 planetary systems, right? Bhu, Bhuvar, and Swarga was scorched by the combined Ashtra Teja. They were all sort of burnt by this Ashtra Teja. They didn't die yet because the Brahmastra wasn't aimed at them, but the effulgence was getting worse. But luckily, before it got worse, Arjuna released his Brahmastra and he cancelled the other Brahmastra. The effulgence became very bright. Everyone was reminded of the Samvartaka fire, which takes place at the time of annihilation. Now, this Samvartaka fire, we heard about the Samvartaka clouds. That is when, Arjuna, during the what do you call, Govardhan pastime, we heard about the Samvartaka clouds, the great clouds of destruction sent by Indra to destroy Gokul, and how Krishna had to protect them by raising the Govardhan hill. So like this, there is also Samvartaka fire. Samvartaka means destruction, ultimate destruction. So at the end of every day of Brahma, there is the destruction of the entire universe. So this is called, or even at the end of one Manvantara, there is a minor destruction of the planetary systems. So like that, this is called Samvartaka, the destruction of the entire planetary systems. So everyone was reminded of such a fire which takes place at the time of annihilation. Thus, seeing the disturbance of the general populace and the imminent destruction of the planets, immediately Arjuna at once retracted both the Brahmastra, because Arjuna, he had the capability of retracting. Unlike Ashwatthama, who did not know how to retract, because Arjuna is the greatest archer. He is the #1 pupil of Dronacharya. Actually, that's one of the reasons why Ashwatthama sided the Kauravas. Because Ashwatthama is the son of Dronacharya, and Ashwatthama, being the son of Dronacharya, he wanted to be the best student of Dronacharya. It's natural. The child wants to be the best student of his father. But Arjuna was the best student. So Ashwatthama was always jealous. He wasn't very jealous. He was okay. He was friendly with Arjuna. It's not like Karna. Karna was very, very jealous. And Duryodhana was terribly jealous. They are very, very envious. But Ashwatthama was just little upset. All he wanted was, he wanted to be the favorite of his father. But it was not meant to be. But instead of turning his feelings positively, he allowed negativity to shadow his feelings, shadow his heart. So later, when Dronacharya was bound by his so-called duty to support the Kshatriyas, Ashwatthama, even though he was friendly with the Pandavas, it wasn't very difficult for him to side with the Kauravas. So that was the problem. This is the problem with envy. Very, very dangerous. So anyway, Arjuna at once. So Arjuna, because he was the star student, Dronacharya gave all the secrets of the weapons to Arjuna. Few people knew how to fully control the Brahmastra. Arjuna was one of them. Dronacharya was another. Bhishma was another. And Parashuram was another. So like that, not many people. So very few, because this is such a powerful weapon. So only very responsible people, very, the gurus will not teach this to people who don't deserve it. So Karna also knew, because Karna, anyway, Karna's story is different. So therefore, he got it by unfair means. He was cursed. He cheated his guru. And in this way, he got the knowledge of the Brahmastra. He didn't deserve it, but he cheated his guru and got the knowledge. So anyway, this kind of knowledge, very powerful, is only given to qualified people, like Bhishma. Bhishma would never try to destroy the entire universe. Or Dronacharya, he is a Brahmana, right? So in this way, Arjuna was also entrusted with this knowledge. So both qualification is necessary, skill is also necessary. So Arjuna's skill was such that he was able to, he deserved the, he was able to invoke the Brahmastra. So anyway, he knew the full skill. So therefore he could, how the science works is, when one Brahmastra is released, because it's the same type of energy, another weapon is also released or having the same type of energy. And when they combine, because of the same type of energy, the one who released the weapon, if he knows how to retract it, he can retract his own weapon. But that weapon, since it's combined with the other weapon, it will also retract the other weapon together because they're combined now. So same type of energy signature. So therefore they can retract the entire energy together. So that's the plan. That's Krishna's plan to Arjuna. So Arjuna did that. He had once retracted both the Brahmastra weapons as Vasudeva desired. So here, it's an interesting point by Prabhupada. That's a point of Prabhupada here. The world can be destroyed only by the will of the Lord and not by the whims of tiny politicians. So we should understand this all kinds of things can be planned, but we should always remember that this world is under the jurisdiction of the Supreme Lord, right? So there is a plan so currently it's Kali Yuga. Yes, it's a very bad time to take birth. There were other good times in this world, right? People who are very, very pious, they take birth in Satya Yuga, the golden age. People who are less pious, they take birth in Treta Yuga. So like that, sinful people generally take birth in Kali Yuga. So this is unfortunately Kali Yuga. And there is a plan for Kali Yuga also. So it will work according to Krishna's plan and not otherwise. So even though other people prematurely try to bring forth the destruction of the world, yes, the world will get destroyed one day, but not earlier than the plan of the Lord. It will only act accordingly. And still there's a long time to go, right? We are now only in 5,000 years of Kali Yuga, some more 427,000 years to go before the next Yuga comes, right? So the Tejas was completely contained, and it was recalled by the mantra uttered by Arjuna. After this, Arjuna, his eyes blazing in anger, like two red balls of copper, Tamra Akshaha. Tamra Akshaha. Tamra means copper, like copper balls blazing. So in this way, this is showing Arjuna was very angry. Arjuna dexterously arrested Ashwatthama. So Ashwatthama is referred to here as Darunam Gautami Sutam. He is known as Darunam Gautami Sutam. Actually, he's a son of a Brahmana. He is supposed to be a Brahmana. But here he's referred to as number one, Darunam, dangerous. The word Darunam. Now, Brahmanas are not supposed to be dangerous. So here is a person who is contrary, Darunam. And he's also addressed as Gautami Sutam. The son, Sutam means son, the son of Gautama Rishi's family. Now, the Gautama Rishi has a daughter, and his daughter is called Kripi. His daughter is Kripi, and Kripi is born from this lineage of Gautama Muni, and Kripi is the mother of Ashwatthama. So he's referring to Ashwatthama from his mother's line. So coming from an exalted ancestor, a Brahminical ancestor, although coming from such a Brahminical lineage, still this person is not known as a Brahmana already. Therefore, they didn't call him as a Brahmana. They only called him as Sutta, son of such a Brahmana. But he himself is no longer a Brahmana because he lost his qualities and he became dangerous. So because he became dangerous, therefore Arjuna bound him with ropes, just like an animal, just like a dangerous animal. So Prabhupada comments, Ashwatthama was a bona fide son of Dronacharya and Kripi, both exalted Brahmana lineage. But because he had degraded himself to a lower status of life, it was proper to treat him as an animal and not as a Brahmana. So this is again indicative, how the caste system currently in India is such a perversion. So it's not according to birth or lineage. One can say, my great ancestors were all Brahmanas, Saraswati Brahmanas or whatever, but doesn't matter. It is not Janma which establishes Brahminical nature. It is, what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? He says, Guna, Karma, Swabhavaha, Vibhagaha. Guna, Karma, Vibhagaha. This is the one that determines the quality of a person, not Janma. Guna means quality, Karma means activity. What is the activity that he does? One may be born from a Brahmana, but if he doesn't behave like a Brahmana, he doesn't act as a Brahmana, then he's not a Brahmana. So that is the understanding. So similarly, what to speak of Brahmana, this Drona's son, Ashwatthama, he wasn't even acting like a Kshatriya. In fact, the activities that he did was so terrible that it brought him completely out of the caste system. He brought completely out of Aryan. Civilized people don't behave in this way. So he became lower than a civilized person, something like a mlecha. So in fact, lower than that, like an animal. So therefore, Prabhupada says it's suitable that he was treated in that way because he was very dangerous. So after binding Ashwatthama, so Arjuna wanted to take him to the military camp. So he bound Ashwatthama and wanted to drag him to face the justice because he promised Draupadi. And then Bhagavan immediately spoke to Arjuna in an angry mood. So Lord Krishna, being a friend of Arjuna, so what's a loyal friend? A loyal friend is when you are angry with someone, your loyal friend is also angry together with you, isn't it? So that is friendship. They are always together. So they stick together. So therefore, Krishna was also very upset. He was very angry that this Ashwatthama was behaving in such a way, contrary to his lineage, contrary to his caste, contrary to his teachings. And not only that, he did such terrible things. He killed the rest of the army of the Pandavas at night. So Bhagavan, here Krishna is referred to as Bhagavan, Ambuja Ikshana, Ambujikshana. Ambuja Ikshana means the personality of Godhead who is looking with his lotus eyes. So it's very interesting that although Krishna is angry, still his eyes are referred to as lotus. Isn't it interesting? Now, when people's eyes are angry, we just heard how Arjuna's eyes were like copper balls of fire. Nothing to do like a lotus. So generally, devotees are also lotus-eyed because they are also very merciful, Karunika, and all the good qualities are with them. But in anger, you can see how Arjuna's eyes were like balls of fire. But Krishna, he is the Supreme Father. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is Divyam, transcendental to all of these affairs. So although he acts like as if he's angry, yeah, he's playing the part, right? But what is Ashwatthama to Krishna? To Krishna, Ashwatthama is just another jiva, is another soul. And not just another soul, part and parcel of him, just like his children. So all the jivas, no matter how heinous they are all nothing in Krishna's vision, they are all his children. They are all his dear children. So just like how a parent may angrily look at his child, like a small child sometimes is very naughty, right? He like a 3-year-old child, goes around, going around banging something. Sometimes the parent may angrily look at the child. But though he's angrily looking at the child, the parent actually is not, he's in deep inside, he is relishing, just like how Mother Yashoda was angrily chastising Krishna when Krishna was breaking the pot and he was running. So it looks like Mother Yashoda was angry. Her eyes, she came with a stick and everything, anger. But actually, Mother Yashoda's eyes are
lotus-like. So there is no real anger. It is just love. In one of the different permutations of love, this anger is seen. So in the same way, Krishna is also looking at, so the anger of Krishna is very different compared to the anger of Arjuna. So this is the purport of this word, Ambuja Ikshanaha. So Bhagavan Ambuja Ikshanaha, the Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who looks through his lotus eyes. Therefore, his glance is cooling. His glance, even though is angry, unlike Arjuna, which is red hot like copper balls of fire, his glance is cooling like the lotus flower. So in other words, his anger is good. Krishna's happiness or Krishna's anger is non-different. Because he's transcendental and he's absolute. So what does Prabhupada say? Because Krishna is absolute, both his anger and pleasure are the same. Because it all is auspicious. Anger and pleasure both are auspicious for the living entity. His anger is not exhibited in the three modes of material nature. This is very important point. So Krishna's anger is not bound by the three modes. It's not mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. It's transcendental. It has nothing to do with matter. So it is beyond. He looks through everyone with absolute vision. It is only a sign of his bent of mind towards the cause of his devotee, because that is his transcendental nature. So this so-called anger of Krishna is another way of showing his friendship to Arjuna. So his bent of mind in friendship to Arjuna. You know, a friend is happy when a person is happy when his friend also supports his own cause, right? When you have a cause and the person and your friend supports your cause, then or in the same mood with your cause, then you're happy, isn't it? So it's one of the exchanges of rasa, of friendship. So that is the point here. So therefore, even if he is angry, the object of anger is blessed. So this is always the position of the Supreme Lord. He always sees everyone equally. Sama Darshana. So that is the understanding. So you can see here. So Krishna, O Partha. So Krishna says in an angry mood, but with lotus eyes, cooling glance. So he says, O Partha, son of Pritha, right? You should not show mercy by releasing this Brahma Bandhu. So again, note how Ashwatthama is no longer referred to as a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or anything. He's being called Brahma Bandhu, friend of or relative of a Brahmana. Brahma Bandhu here means one who is a relative of a Brahmana. So that means he's not a Brahmana. O Partha, you should not show mercy by releasing this Brahma Bandhu, for he has killed innocent boys in their sleep at night some more. When honorably you're not supposed to do this at night, just like a thief at night. And then Krishna gives a very nice dharmic statement. So we will recite this statement. Verse, Matam pramattam unmatam suptam balam striyam jadam prapannam viratam vitam naripum hanti dharmavit. So Srimad Bhagavatam, he says, a dharmavit means one who knows dharma. A dharmavit does not kill an enemy who is, so there are conditions in killing. So therefore, these are the conditions. One who knows dharma or one who would upheld dharma, he will not kill an enemy who is careless, a careless person. That means not a very careful person. He will not kill him. An enemy who is intoxicated. So one who is drunk, in other words, not in command of his faculties, right? So out of carelessness or out of intoxication, an honorable person, one who knows dharma, doesn't kill such opponents. An enemy who is insane, he doesn't kill them. One who is asleep, he doesn't kill them. But this Ashwatthama killed someone who is asleep, broke that principle. One who is afraid. Now, Ashwatthama also killed many people who are afraid. Some of them were sleeping, and when we attacked them, they woke up fearfully, and some of them even begged for mercy, but he didn't. He just killed them anyway, right? So an enemy who is devoid of chariot. So they were all sleeping on the ground, devoid of chariot, but yet he killed them. A boy, so that means a child. So one does not kill a child. A woman, they don't kill women. A foolish creature, one who is foolish, who has, like a half-wit, something like that, they don't kill such people. Or a surrendered soul, one who surrenders to you, So that's why even when those days, when Kshatriyas, they fight, if a Kshatriya surrenders to another Kshatriya, his life is spared. Of course, the Kshatriya who surrenders loses face, loses a lot of the honor and everything, but still, this is the code of Dharma. So therefore, Krishna continues, a cruel and wretched, shameless, in other words, shameless person who maintains his existence at the cost of others' lives. So the words used were swa pranam, for one's own life. Swa means for my own prana, I kill para pranai, other people's prana. I take other people's lives just to satisfy my own life, just to maintain my own life. So such a person is called cruel, wretched, and shameless. So one who maintains his life at the cost of others' lives deserves to be killed for his own good. Shreya, the word Shreya, his own ultimate good. So if he is not killed, what will happen? Such a person, because he is doing this, just to maintain his own life, he is killing other lives. So what will happen? He will incur such horrible karma because he's doing this continuously, karma upon karma upon karma. He's actually doing himself a terrible disservice. And in this way, he's going to go down into lower planets, into hellish planetary systems. So rather than to let such a person live, it is a mercy to kill that person. This is Krishna's statement. A person who is continuously doing activities which are degrading him, for his own benefit, is better to kill him now, so that he'll purify himself, get a different birth, and at least not continue in this kind of activities. If you allow him to continue in those activities, then he degrades himself further and further. So that is why Prabhupada says, such a death sentence for the murderer is the lowest possible punishment offered to him. So this is the origin of the capital punishment given to murderers. So when someone kills someone, the punishment by the king is that they are also killed, either by hanging or whatever. And this is considered a mercy. This is considered mercy for the benefit of the murderer, so that at least, you see, Prabhupada says here, such a death sentence for the murderer is the lowest possible punishment offered to him. And it is said in the Smriti Shastras that men who are punished by the king on the principle of a life for a life, so it's not anybody who gets to punish. The king is the one who metes out punishment, right, to criminals. On the principle of a life for life, are purified of all their sins. So by being punished, they actually get purified. So that is the point of punishment. The purpose of punishment is not vindictively to go and cause harm to another person. It is actually to purify that person. When somebody goes through it's like austerity. When somebody does austerities, they purify themselves, right? But a criminal doesn't do austerities. So forcibly austerity is placed upon the criminal. And sometimes the austerity is so bad, it means life for a life. Actually, if you kill someone, the austerity punishment for that is to take his own life. So this purifies. By encouraging animal slaughter, the whole atmosphere becomes polluted by war, pestilence, famine, and other calamities. So that's the thing now. So here you can see a picture. This is the picture of Parikshit Maharaj, who is punishing Kali. Now we will hear about this later on in the later chapters of this Canto 1 Bhagavatam. But you may have heard how Parikshit Maharaj punished Kali personified. Now Kali personified, he took the form of a king, pretended to be a king, and he was attacking a cow and a bull. The cow was the personification of Mother Earth, and bull was the personification of Dharma. So in this way, Kali, he was attacking the legs of Dharma. So when Parikshit Maharaj saw this, immediately he came and he arrested this Kali, and then he was going to kill Kali, but Kali surrendered. So following the codes of Dharma, Parikshit allowed Kali to live. And then Kali begged for a place to stay. So in this way, in Kali Yuga, Kali gets to stay in all the places of gambling, of illicit activities and all that. So we will hear about this in later chapters. But the point here is, Parikshit Maharaj followed the code of a Kshatriya. He followed Dharma, and he spared the life of Kali. But due to this Kali Yuga, however, Kali Yuga is meant to come. So after Parikshit left, Kali completely took control of the world. So now Kali lives. Previously he could only live in places where gold is hoarded, but the moment Parikshit left, by the benediction of Parikshit Maharaj, Kali especially he thrives where meat eating is going on, where gambling is going on, intoxication is going on, and illicit sexual activity is going on, especially in these places. But of course, overall, everywhere is Kali now, Kali Yuga. But especially in these places, they thrive. He thrives there. So currently in Kali Yuga, a lot of murderers are there. Many murderers, right? They kill animal slaughter is going on rampantly. The government is encouraging wholesale animal slaughter by opening up slaughterhouses where thousands and thousands and millions of creatures are killed daily. So these are all places of death. So the whole atmosphere becomes polluted by, and there's terrible reactions that come. So is there any wonder that there is war, pestilence, famine, and other calamities that constantly visit the countries when these things are going on? So Prabhupada continues, he who gives permission. So who is a murderer? He who gives permission, he who kills the animal or the person, he who sells the slaughtered animal or the person, this is trafficking, nowadays we have trafficking. He who cooks the animal, he who administers distribution of the foodstuff, and he who eats such cooked animal food are all murderers. They all carry the sin, the karma, 1/6. So a part of the sin is carried. So of course, if one does all of these things, then he carries the full sin. So this is the problem. So therefore, in previous ages, right, the scriptures, they sanction restricted animal sacrifice, because there will always be such people here and there. So some form of animal sacrifice, which is a very controlled form of killing animal, was allowed. And such a sacrifice is beneficial to the animal. The animal gets liberated, right? And the sacrifice gives some reward. And at the same time, the body, the carcass of such an animal which has been sacrificed is used by the lower people, the mlechas and those who are outside the caste, and they will eat these animals. So in this way, at least it was controlled and there is some benefit. But the moment Kali Yuga began, these sacrifices were forbidden. And though they were forbidden, still unscrupulous Brahmanas were still doing it. And it became a complete, everybody was doing it simply for the purpose of eating flesh. So that's the problem. Now, if at all this kind of sacrifice, like even currently, people in the mode of ignorance, who want to eat meat and all, they can, they worship certain devatas like Kali, Kali Mata. So she's a form of Parvati in the mode of ignorance. She takes the form of the mode of ignorance. It's a mode of worship in the form of ignorance. So for them, animal sacrifice is allowed once a month during the dark moon. So then they usually commonly sacrifice a goat, and then they eat the goat. So, but at least it's just once a month, and at least it's controlled. They still get karma, but there is some benefit still because they still follow some injunction. And gradually they evolve. They after suffering for the sin of the kill, they get a better life still. In their next life, they get a higher birth. And they are given the opportunity to become Brahminical. Slowly. But it's a very slow evolution. But if these things are not there, then slaughterhouses will be opened everywhere. So this is what's happening right now. So then Krishna continues. Furthermore, I have personally heard you promise. So basically, we are talking about how Krishna, he is telling Arjuna, you should not let this person go. He has done terrible sins. So furthermore, I have personally heard you promise Panchalya, Draupadi. Panchalya is Draupadi. Panchalya is the name, it means daughter of the king of Panchala. Draupadi is the daughter of the king of Panchala, so it's called Panchalya. Drupada is the king of Panchala, is the kingdom of Drupada. Drupada is the father of Draupadi. So furthermore, I have personally heard you promise Panchalya. So you need to uphold your promise. What's the promise? That you would bring forth the head of the Putraha. Putraha means one who kills children, the sons. So you have promised to bring back the head of the Putraha. So he needs to be killed. So this man is sinful assassin and murderer of your own family members. Not only that, he has also dissatisfied his master. So after doing all this sinful activity, Papa, the word Papa is used. And he's an assassin, assaulter. So he did all these sinful activities, but for what purpose? He didn't even, at least he could have satisfied if he did all this to satisfy his master, the sin would have gone to his master. But he didn't even do this in satisfaction of his master. Duryodhana wasn't pleased. So he completely did a terrible sinful activity, completely wasted. He didn't achieve his goal, he didn't please his master, and it was a complete loss. See, he is nothing but a Kula Pamsana. Kula Pamsana means the burnt remnant of his family. This is the word Krishna uses. Though he was of great lineage, father Dronacharya, great Brahmana, mother, daughter of Bhrigu Muni, great Brahmana, Gautama Muni, great Brahmana, but still he became like this. So he's known as the burnt remnant of his family. Kula Pumsana. This is the word used. Kill him immediately. Krishna is saying, for his own good, for his own benefit, he needs to be killed immediately. So he gave all the reasons. So although Krishna was encouraging Arjuna to kill this Guru Sutam means son of the Guru. So the word Guru Sutam was used, is significant. So Krishna was encouraging, he gave all the reasons. You see, he's reminding him, he killed your children, he went in the night, he did it by deceit, all the terrible things just to inflame Arjuna's feelings. Krishna was telling all this. So what are you waiting for? You have no reason. You have every reason. Dharma supports you. Go ahead and kill this person who has done this to you. So actually, Krishna is testing Arjuna. So because he wants to test Arjuna, he gives all these statements. He's trying to incite Arjuna. But see what happens. Although Krishna was encouraging him to kill this son of to kill the son of his guru, but what does he do? But Arjuna, a Mahan, the word Mahan is used. Arjuna, Mahan means saintly person, a great soul. Arjuna, a Mahan, did not like the idea of killing him. Although Ashwatthama was a heinous murderer of Arjuna's family members. So this is very, very nice point which is being raised over here. We saw how Ashwatthama behaved when just his own life was threatened, right? We also know now Narsingha Chaturdasi is coming, when Prahlad Maharaj, when his own son simply didn't want to worship the person he wanted him to worship, simply because his son glorified his enemy, right? What did Hiranyakashipu want to do? He wanted to kill his own son. So these are the behavior of demonic people, right? So they don't mind doing terrible things just to satisfy a whim. Ashwatthama was willing to destroy the world just to save his own neck, right? Even though he knew it was wrong. But look at what Arjuna is doing. Arjuna had gone through so much of difficulties, so much of heartache. His own son Abhimanyu was killed, another son, a boy. They shouldn't have killed him, but he was killed. His own son was killed. And now on top of that, the 5 children of Draupadi, including Arjuna's son with Draupadi, was also killed, right? Such a terrible thing. And the remainder of his army was all killed. In fact, many people were killed in Mahabharata. At the end of Mahabharata, only 12 or 13 people survived out of millions of people. Of course, the 5 Pandavas, Ashwatthama, Kripacharya, who else? Ashwatthama, Kripacharya, one or two more persons. I can't. Satyaki, the one of the Vrishni dynasty generals, and then there is another person, another Vrishni also survived. So only about 12 or 13 altogether. So and thanks to Ashwatthama, he killed the rest of the remaining. Actually, the Pandava army was victorious. They already won, and though less than an Akshauhini was still surviving, but Ashwatthama during the night he killed the rest of them. So army destroyed, so much of heartache, Draupadi crying, and here we have Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, urging him on, giving him reason after reason why you should kill your enemy. But see what Arjuna does. Arjuna, a Mahan, still did not like the idea of killing him. Why? Because Guru Sutam, so the son of his Guru. So, of course, number one, he was Brahmana's son. He himself was a Brahmana, but son of a Guru. So he was not comfortable with the idea. He didn't like to. Now, a normal person wouldn't care. They will give justification. The Supreme Lord himself is telling me why I should wait. Let me take my revenge. Let me kill you for what you have done. Take that. Die, you miserable person. That's how they will say. Isn't it? Normal person who's gone through this much of pain. But when it actually came down right to the act of doing it, now Ashwatthama was already caught. He was already bound in ropes. He was already defeated. Now to a Kshatriya who is defeated and bound in ropes, it is already like as if he is dead. So therefore Arjuna just couldn't. So his saintly quality, his saintly nature is being highlighted over here. So it's very interesting. This is the test of Krishna. Now, if you remember in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavad Gita also, before the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, Arjuna was put into illusion, right? And Arjuna will say, bring me Krishna and let me see who all are fighting in front of me. And Krishna will bring Arjuna, of all the people who are fighting over there, purposely Krishna will bring Arjuna and put him right in front of Dronacharya, his guru, and Bhishma, his beloved grandfather. And say, yeah, there, see, here are all the people who are waiting to kill you. So purposely he did it so that Arjuna will lose his what do you call his proper thinking, so that he will fall into illusion. Because Krishna's purpose is that he wants that to happen for many reasons. One reason is, of course, to find an excuse to say the Bhagavad Gita, to sing the Bhagavad Gita. But also he wanted to highlight, see, my devotee means like this. This is my devotee. Krishna is trying to tell everybody. My devotee is not interested in revenge. My devotee is not interested in just killing for the sake of killing. Even when all good excuses are there to kill, he doesn't take pleasure in it. It's not for the satisfaction of the soul that he kills, right? And what came out of Arjuna at that time? Saintly qualities. He was feeling compassionate. Compassion, even after so many terrible things that the Kauravas did to him, still he could only have compassion. When Arjuna was put into illusion, compassion came out of him. When demons are put into illusion, what comes out of them? Not compassion. Envy, vengeance, anger, right? Disregard of life. This is what comes out of demons. So devotees must cultivate compassion and non-enviousness before one is fit to hear Bhagavad Gita. To get the full message, to get the full benefit. Of course, by hearing Bhagavad Gita, we purify ourselves slowly, slowly, slowly. But ultimately, we must come to the point of compassion, kripa, kripalu. Just like our Lord, our Supreme Lord is also compassionate. So in the same way, we should also come to that point. So Krishna is trying to show the world the qualities of a pure devotee, karunika. So in the same way, we see the same parallel happening here in Bhagavatam. Krishna is again putting Arjuna into illusion. But Arjuna already heard the Bhagavad Gita. So he already prepared already. He knows how to pass the test. Krishna is putting a test to Arjuna, but Arjuna will know how to pass the test. So after Krishna is egging him on, what happens? See what happens. After reaching his own camp, Arjuna, along with this Govinda, Priya Sarathi, entrusted the murderer into his dear wife, who was lamenting for her murdered sons. So Arjuna, what he did, even though Krishna was egging him to kill, gave him all the reasons and excuses, but Arjuna didn't kill. So he passed the first test. He didn't kill. He was feeling reluctant, but he didn't release him also. He brought him to Draupadi, because he understood Draupadi is the one who is feeling the greatest pain. And he himself has promised Draupadi that I will bring his head. Yeah, he's bringing his head together with his body. So entire Ashwatthama is being brought to, so he kept his promise there. But he's now going to leave it to Draupadi to make the decision. So, and here Krishna is described as Govinda Priya Sarathi. Govinda, the master of the senses, or the enlivener of the senses. So, and he is guiding the senses of Arjuna. So how Arjuna, being guided by Krishna consciousness, therefore he is not killing directly the son of his guru, who is defeated and caught and bound. If Arjuna were to kill at that time Ashwatthama, who was completely defeated and who was bound, he would commit a great sin. Even though there is still dharma to support him, at the same time there will still be a sin of killing his guru's son. So what he did, he brought him back and he passed the first test. And here Govinda is also called, oops, my battery is running low.
Just a moment. I'll plug my. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah. So, what were we? Draupadi's son Ashwatthama was born with robes like an animal. Yeah. So therefore, he brought. Here, Krishna is known as Govinda Priya Saratihi. So, dear friend and charioteer. So Krishna is the well-wisher, the best well-wisher of Arjuna. So therefore, he gave Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna passed the test of Krishna, and therefore Arjuna brought Ashwatthama to Draupadi to face judgment. And then what happens? Sri Suta Uvacha, Draupadi. So Suta is now telling, Suta Goswami is telling what happened when Arjuna brought Ashwatthama to face judgment by Draupadi. So it is, before we go here, it is now 9:20. So I think I can't complete the chapter today. I will probably stop here. So we will hear what happens, what is Draupadi's judgment. Now you try to imagine, try to put ourselves in her situation. Now you might think Arjuna's pain is bad. So he has gone through so much, and then the pain of killing. Now, do you think Arjuna's pain compares to even Draupadi's pain? Draupadi just had her son Abhimanyu killed, and then Draupadi's 5 remaining children were all killed one shot. Horrible murder. The heads cut off and the heads taken away. They couldn't even bury the heads, the body properly. So can you imagine the grief and the type of feelings that Draupadi is having? So try to imagine that, and then we can see the quality of Draupadi. What kind of person Draupadi is. We saw the greatness of Arjuna. We also can see the greatness of Draupadi in the next following series. So we will see what Draupadi says when Ashwatthama is brought to her in this way. Okay, so we will stop here and we'll see if there are any questions. So Hare Krishna, there are no questions, right? So then thank you so much for listening to this. So we will complete the session in the next one. So next Thursday is Narasingha Chaturdasi. So happy Narasingha Chaturdasi in advance. And of course, we have Kirtan Mela happening in KL, SJM KL Temple. And after that, so after Narasingha Chaturdasi, the week after following that, then the next Thursday, we can continue with this. And we will finish the chapter. So Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you very much for listening. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.